Hi everyone. It seems like these days everyone who's interested about history has something to say about the helmet of Odysseus in Christopher Nolan's upcoming film about the Odyssey. Now, you may have already seen the promotional image showing, a partial view of Odysseus in armor, and there have been lots of complaints about this for being historically inaccurate. And it is inaccurate, but I want to address a criticism of the criticism that I have of the complaints. So one of the biggest complaints is that supposedly, if it were historically accurate, then Odysseus should be shown wearing a boar's tusk helmet. So in the Iliad, Odysseus is described as wearing a boar's tusk helmet, and that obviously looks very, very different to this helmet that we see in the promotional image. But is that really a valid criticism to say that that is not how he should be depicted in this upcoming film? Well, no, it's not. Okay, there's a lot of confusion about the issue of the boar's tusk helmet, so allow me to please clarify some of these issues. So first of all, it's true that in the Iliad, Odysseus is shown wearing a boar's tusk helmet on one occasion. It's not his standard helmet. He uses it on one occasion during a night raid, and it's given to him by someone else. It's not his helmet. It's not the helmet he uses as standard. It is just a helmet given to him by someone else, a totally different family, on one specific occasion. His normal helmet is the same as everyone else's. The standard helmets that Homer describes are bronze helmets, not leather with boar's tusks over them, but bronze helmets which cover the cheeks and have plumes of horsehair on them. Very similar, in fact, to what we see in the promotional image for Christopher Nolan's upcoming film. So basically, Homer seems to be describing standard hoplite armor. All his descriptions, from the greaves on the legs to the helmet on the heads of the Greek soldiers, it's basically a match for archaic era Greek hoplite armor. So the helmet in question would be probably a Corinthian helmet, which is not identical to what Christopher Nolan is using, but it's not very far away either. I mean, you can understand, the main difference really is the fact that the helmet that Christopher Nolan is using is much more open at the front, but you can understand why Hollywood would like to have the helmet more open so that you can see the actor's face, because an actual Corinthian helmet is very closed. But it's a reasonable, in my opinion, a reasonable Hollywood approximation of what Homer described. It's certainly far more accurate than Mycenaean era, Bronze Age helmets, which Homer does not describe, which bear no relation to anything that's in the Iliad. So regarding the boar's tusk helmet specifically, a lot of people think that this is an indication that the story is set in the Bronze Age. So even if that wasn't his standard helmet, it would be appropriate to use Bronze Age armor for the standard equipment. But that's not true either. In reality, like I said, the standard equipment that Homer describes matches the archaic era, the Greek hoplites. So where does the boar's tusk helmet fit in? Well, no, that's not an anachronistic feature of the Mycenaean era. Or rather, I suppose, from the point of view of most people, it would be the standard Greek equipment that Homer describes, which is anachronistic because of the view that the Iliad is set in the Bronze Age. But in reality, the boar's tusk helmet is actually perfectly consistent with everything else that Homer describes. The standard use of Greek hoplite armor. The boar's tusk helmet fits in with that world, that archaic setting, not Bronze Age Mycenaean, which Homer doesn't describe, but the archaic world that Homer describes. The boar's tusk helmet fits there. How so? Well, it didn't fall out of use at the end of the Mycenaean era, contrary to popular belief. In reality, archaeologists now know that the boar's tusk helmet continued to be used until at least 800 BCE. Maybe it wasn't very common, but artifacts from boar's tusk helmets have been found dating to 800 BCE. And in Homer's Iliad, he specifically says that it was a family heirloom. It had been passed down through at least several generations before arriving at the hands of the person who gave it to Odysseus. So it's explicitly presented as being a very old item. And like I said, we know that they were still used as late as 800 BCE. So the Greek hoplite armor would suggest latter half of the 700s. And the fact that the boar's tusk helmet was old, explicitly, it's an old family heirloom in the Iliad, that would fit the boar's tusk helmet being from the tail end of when we know they were being used, which was as late as 800, being passed down several generations, and arriving in the world of the Iliad, which is set in the Archaic era, the late 700s. So there's nothing inaccurate about having the boar's tusk helmet side by side with archaic late 8th century armor. And there's no major inaccuracy in Christopher Nolan's depiction of Odysseus' helmet. Like I said, it's not a perfect representation of a Corinthian helmet, but it's a very reasonable Hollywood approximation of what Homer described.